Hey guys, and today I'm going to talk about the four hidden secondary jobs in Octopath Traveler. First, I'm going to show you the locations and how to get to each of the shrines. Now, these work a little bit differently than the regular secondary jobs because you can't just walk in there and unlock them. Once you get in there, it's sort of a dungeon, and you have to beat a boss at the end. The dungeon area is also level 50, so you don't want to go in there too low level. And the paths to these shrines are also level 45 areas. Then once I show you the locations of each one, I'll go over the skills and stat bonuses that each of these four jobs have, and then tips on how to defeat the bosses in each shrine. So first, let me show you the Starseer shrine. The Starseer shrine is in the Flatlands, called Shrine of the Starseer, and it is near Whisper Mill if you have that unlocked. And if you don't have Whisper Mill unlocked, then you can just go starting from Noble Court in the Flatlands, leave, and then go north, and then that'll put you in the Western Whisper Mill Flats, where you'll find the Starseer Shrine. The next one is the Sorcerer Shrine. It's called Shrine of the Archmages, and that's in the Woodlands. It is near Victor's Hollow. So from Victor's Hollow, go north to East Duskbarrow Trail, and that's where you'll find that shrine. Then we go down to the Highlands to find the Shrine of the Runeblade, where you unlock the Runeblade class, and that's near Everhold. If you just leave Everhold, then you'll be in the map that you need to be, West Everhold Pass. Now, if you don't have Everhold or you haven't been there yet, the quickest way would be to leave Stoneguard in the Highlands. You'll be in North Stoneguard Pass, and then just go to the west to get to West Stoneguard Pass, and then south to reach West Everhold Pass. And finally, the last one is the Warmaster, and that's in the Shrine of the Warbringer in the Riverlands, right outside of Riverford, in the North Riverford Traverse. And again, if you don't have Riverford yet or haven't been there, the quickest way is Orwell is another place that you can get to the shrine from, but that's another level 45 area. So if you don't have any of those areas unlocked, you want to start from Quarry Crest in the Clifflands. Leave, you'll be in South Quarry Crest Pass, and then just go like southwest to reach South Orwell Pass, and then you just go south from there to get to North River Traverse and the shrine. And then next I'll be going over each of the shrines, bosses, and the skills and stat bonuses for each of the secondary jobs. I chose the Starseer as the first boss. The Starseer and the Sorcerer are probably the easiest ones as long as you have the right setup. But first, let me go over the stats. The Starseer grants bonuses to max HP, max SP, physical attack, elemental attack, and then physical and elemental defense, and then finally evasion. Now for the skills, they have a elemental attack that hits 3 times. The first time will be wind damage, the second time will be light damage, and the last time will be dark damage. They can cause a single ally to gain 2 BP per turn, increase a single ally's crit hit, increase a single ally's physical and elemental defense, speed, and evasion. They can either stop one enemy from getting stat bonuses or increases, or you can make one ally immune to losing stat increases or getting stat decreases. I mean, they can do a HP regeneration that affects all allies for 2 turns. Counter a physical attack, which is not the same as a reflect. What'll happen is when you get hit by a physical attack, you'll still take the damage, but then you'll also attack back. And finally, their divine skill lets you do damage based on your party's current BP. So if you have your entire party with high BP, this will do a lot of damage. Now for the support skills, they have Hard Worker, which increases the JP that you get after battles, and that does not stack. Then Boost Start, which you just start the battle with an extra BP. BP Eater, what causes your skills to do more damage if you're boosting them. And then finally, then they get Divine Aura, which gives them a 25% chance of nullifying any attack. As for the actual boss, um, this and the Sorcerer bosses are really easy as long as you have the right stuff. The most important things that you're going to need is a Dancer and a Cleric. The Dancer needs to have the Divine skill. The Dancer Divine skill will let you target a single ally and cause that ally's single target abilities to target all. So if you use that on a Cleric, the Cleric has Reflective Veil. That will cause you to reflect one elemental attack back. So if you use the Dancer's Divine skill on a Cleric, they'll be able to cause your entire party to reflect an attack back. Now you're going to want to make sure that you boost up Reflective Veil, so you're going to also want either BP boost items or somebody like um, a merchant or apothecary that can, or specifically Alphen, because he has Concoct, to be able to increase the BP of your Dancer, so you can use that Divine skill to start, and then after that on your Cleric, because you want to always have at least 3 reflects up on each ally, because every time the boss attacks with an elemental attack, it'll hit 3 times. So you don't want to be hit by any of these. And if you have all of them up, whenever your boss attacks, then she's going to get hit 12 times because she's hitting all 4 teammates 3 times. So just having that alone, as long as you keep the reflex up, the boss will wind up killing herself. You don't even have to worry about anything. You don't have to worry about having high damage or high levels. You just need to be strong enough to survive the attacks and set up the reflex. Now for the Starseer, the only thing you have to worry about is the restore balance ability that she does. This will target one ally and take away their buffs, and they won't be able to receive any sort of buffs for 5 turns, which means you're not going to be able to use reflect on them. You're not going to be able to target them with the divine skill. So let's say she did that on your cleric. That would be terrible because now the dancer can't use the divine skill on your cleric, meaning your cleric can't go and put reflect on everybody. So that's the only thing you have to worry about. And if that happens at the start of battle, then I would just restart. Make sure you save before you do this battle. And then that's the only thing you'll have to worry about. The Sorcerer is basically a powered up version of the Scholar, just without the ability to use Analyze. But the stat bonuses for Sorcerer increase max SP, elemental attack, elemental defense, and crit. Now for the skills, the Sorcerer uses elemental attacks that hit all enemies 3 times each, and they can use every element: fire, ice, lightning, wind, light, and dark. So it's another advantage that it has over the Scholar. Then they also have an elemental break, which is a staff weapon attack that'll reduce the target's elemental defense for 2 turns. And finally, their divine skill lets them target ally and allows that ally's elemental attacks to hit for crit damage. So for the support skills, we have Intimidation, which gives you a 25% chance to reduce foes' physical attack and elemental defense at the start of battle, and that can't stack. Stronger Strikes, which increases damage dealt when striking a foe's weak point. Now that's nice because that works for anything. So you can unlock this support skill for a physical attacker, and that'll still increase their damage as long as they're hitting a weak point. Elemental Aid, which causes your attacks to consume double SP but then deal additional damage. and then augmented elements, which increases the damage dealt by elemental attacks. Now, for the boss, again, the boss is basically the same as Starseer in terms of how you go about doing it. The only, really, the only difference is the Sorcerer boss uses a ability similar to Restore Balance that targets, whereas Restore Balance targets one ally, the Sorcerer will target your entire party and cause them to not receive any sort of buff and take away buffs that they have. So again, this is the only thing you really have to worry about. If that Sorcerer uses that move at the beginning of battle, then there's really no point in waiting like 5 turns. Just restart the battle. But other than that, same thing as Starseer. Use the setup for that, and then you can win easily. Runelord is probably my favorite, at least of the hidden secondary jobs. Now the Runelord stat increases do physical and elemental attack, physical and elemental defense, accuracy, and crit. Now for the abilities, they they can use runes to give their physical attacks elements. So like the fire rune will cause their weapon attacks to deal additional fire damage. The way this works is as long as you use a weapon attack or a skill that uses a specific weapon, and if you have the fire rune on, once you hit them, let's say you do an axe attack that has a fire rune, you hit them with the physical axe attack just like normal, and then an additional fire element attack comes afterwards. And that fire element attack is based on your character's elemental attack. And the good thing is that elemental attack is boosted pretty high. So if you're using a Rune Lord for attacking purposes, you definitely want to raise up elemental attack because that'll go much higher than your physical attack will. And they have those runes for every element. And then another one of the biggest things is transfer rune. That causes you to be able to use skills that normally target yourself only will also target your allies. That's amazing for Tressa, and you'll see later why that's the best thing to use for the Warmaster boss fight because of sidestep. Normally, she can just evade, a single attack. If you use Transfer Rune and then you use sidestep, that allows her to let the entire party evade. But the Transfer Rune also, again, works with any self-target ability, so that lets her actually use her elemental runes on everybody. And that's really nice because then you can use that on people like um, Hanet, even your magic elemental users. I mean, like Ophelia or Cyrus. I used the runes and used just a basic staff attack on Ophelia, and it caused her to do about 14,000 damage. Like she only did like 80 damage for their staff attack, and then the elemental attack that came afterwards did like 14,000. So it's a very huge boost if the character has a high elemental attack. And then again, Transfer Rune is just very helpful. Like sidestep, it also works with her rest, so she can get the entire party can get their HP and SP back and cure status elements. There's a lot of different ways you can use just the Transfer Rune alone. Now the Divine skill, which I don't have on her, is it allows you to deal damage with all 6 elements to a single foe. So it'll be 6 attacks: fire, ice, lightning, wind, dark, and light, all on one enemy. So it does quite a bit of damage. Now for the support skills, which I actually got on Hanet, um, the first one is Stat Swap, which will cause your elemental and physical attack strength to be swapped. So that's another good thing to have if you want to have a really strong attacker like Hanet or Ulbrich use Runelord, then you can still stack up their physical attack high and then just put the stat swap support skill on. So then their elemental attack will be really high. And then SP recovery, whenever you take damage from an enemy, then you'll get SP back equal to 1% of the damage taken. Dauntless increases your physical and elemental attack when you get a status element. And then finally, Elemental Edge, which gives you augmented elemental attack and defense in battle. And the way this works is it's the same thing as if you are using anything to increase your allies' elemental attack or defense. So the dancer, like the dancer skill, the peacock strut that increases elemental attack, it does the same thing except for it's permanent. So an ally with this support skill will never have to receive that boost because they'll always have it. And if you use it, it doesn't do anything because they already have it on there. So the boss for Runelord, I think, was probably the hardest one for me to do because you can't make it really easy by reflecting attacks back. The Runelord boss does not work like the actual Runelord class. So whenever the boss attacks with one of the runes, it does one single attack, and it is not an elemental attack. So you can't reflect it back. But all the runes that the boss uses will have some sort of status element that they can cause to you. So if you want to make this fight easy, you're going to want an apothecary that has rehabilitate. And then, of course, the Dancer Divine skill. So use the Dancer Divine skill on the apothecary, and then use the apothecary's rehabilitate, which normally targets one ally. It'll then target the entire group. So then, whenever the Runelord uses those rune attacks, you will not get hit by the status effect. You'll still take the damage, but you won't take the status effect. So that makes it a lot easier. And the Runelord only attacks one time. They might get 2 turns, but their attacks don't hit multiple times. At the beginning at least. So another way to get around this is to make sure you have a high enough physical defense, because you're going to be taking a lot of damage and you can't reflect it back, so you need to be able to survive those hits. A warrior can help as well because you can use insight and then cause the boss to focus only on them, but they still need to have enough health to survive those hits. And then of course you're going to want to have BP boosts, so you can use that divine skill and use them on your apothecary. And then saving grace really helps. It's the cleric skill, cleric support skill, which allows you to heal past the maximum HP. This lets you, where you would normally not be able to survive a hit, heal up past your max, and then now you have a lot of health. Now, the only thing after the initial attacks that they use, that the boss uses, eventually the boss will scatter runes, and then that makes the boss able to hit your entire party. Still only one time though, but your entire party, which again, you're going to want to make sure you have that status immunity from rehabilitate on. And then the last ability that the Runelord will use is combining all the runes together. When the boss does this, they're going to target one of your allies and hit them with their, basically the divine skill that lets them hit 6 times on one enemy. So whoever the boss targets with that will most likely die unless they have high HP and defense, but that's only one of your party members, so that's okay. But other than that, there's not really anything else you have to worry about. This one is just, I would try and be a higher level than the other bosses because you have to be able to survive those attacks, and the only thing to really make it bearable is to have status immunity on. Finally, we have the Warmaster. The Warmaster can use every weapon type, and even though the Runelord is my favorite, the Warmaster is still pretty close. Now, the Warmaster's stat increases go up to physical and defense, physical attack and defense, accuracy, speed, and evasion. Works really well for people like Haunted and Obrick. Now, as for the skills, you got Guardian Lion Dog, 5 to 10 sword attacks against random people. So sort of like the Arrow Storm for Haunted. Then Tiger Rage, which is an axe attack on all enemies. Quillen's Horn, pole arm attack on a single enemy. Yatagarasu, a dagger attack on all foes. Fox Spirit, staff attack on all foes. Phoenix Storm, bow attack on a single foe. Nightmare Chimera, which it lets you pick a weapon from your inventory to throw at an enemy, and then that weapon will be destroyed. So I did a low level weapon. It actually did pretty decent damage. But again, that's one time and then the weapon is gone. And then finally, Windhild's Battle Cry, which is a divine skill. It lets you use all 6 weapons and do 6 attacks on all enemies. So that's an absolutely insane attack. 6 hits on all enemies. And it's using all weapon types. So you're going to hit something that they're weak to. Now, as for the support skills, you've got extra experience, which is great for, leveling. Extra experience after battles, does not stack. Stalwart defense, just increases physical defense by 50. Fortitude, deal more damage the lower your HP is. And then finally, physical prowess, which makes your physical attack and defense go up during battle. And this works the same way as that elemental edge ability did. So you have just a permanent physical attack and defense buff, basically. And the boss is pretty hard. The thing is, I found Runelord to still be harder. Now, Warmaster is probably the hardest boss without having Runelord Tressa. Because the Warmaster boss will hit you with multiple physical attacks, and they hit hard, and they hit your entire group. Now, to make this really easy, I definitely recommend getting Runelord unlocked and having Tressa at a decent level. I would say at least in the 40 range. Mine was 45. Use Transfer Rune on Tressa, like I said earlier. Transfer Rune, and then Sidestep. That way, your entire group will be able to dodge physical attacks, and this boss only uses physical attacks. So as long as you're keeping up your sidestep boosts, then you'll be able to dodge all those attacks. That's pretty much it. You just use Transfer Rune and use sidestep as many times as you can. Now, you also would want some element. You can, while you have the sidestep going, you can actually use one of the runes. I would say Ice Rune, because the boss is weak to ice, and you start with that rune. So pass that on while you have Transfer Rune on, and then all your allies will be able to target the boss's weakness, regardless of what class they are. But Sorcerer would also help, or Scholar, but Sorcerer, because of how many hits that they do, would help. But the only thing that you absolutely need is, again, Tressa's Transfer Rune and Sidestep. Even with that, when the boss used her divine skill, man, she cut through my evasion and then still damaged my people. If I didn't have those evasions set up, then I would have died for sure. But as long as you have this, that makes the boss so much easier. I don't even want to see how hard this boss would have been without a Runeblade Tressa. And that's it for my video and guide on the hidden secondary jobs and boss tips for them. If you liked the video, then leave a like, and if you want to see more content, then please subscribe and then click the bell to be notified whenever I add a new video. Otherwise, your viewership is enough, and thanks for watching.